Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode number 50 of Ralph's Stuff. Tonight we have my early books, a look at some of the books I've written, a Feist look at clouds, and farewell to Ralph's Stuff. This will be our final episode of Ralph's Stuff, but don't worry, I got plenty of other TV shows coming. Thanks, and enjoy tonight. Ralph Roberts, and a lot of you know that I'm also an author. In fact, I've been writing professionally for over 30 years now. And we were filming some video here in the conference room of our publishing company yesterday, and I realized that this might be a good setup for me to explain a little bit about some of the things I've done over the years. Because behind me is a bookcase that's full of books I've written. I've written almost 100 books for national publishers. And I'll tell you about a few of them. Now, URTV is non-commercial, so I can't tell you about the books that I have that are still available and in print. But I'll tell you about some of the ones that are out of print and that you might find interesting. Writers love coffee. I can get 500 to 1,500 words or so out of a good cup of coffee. No, that's an exaggeration. I can probably get 250 to 500 words out of a good cup of coffee. Luckily, I drink a lot of coffee. I started writing professionally back in 1978. Made my first sale to a magazine now long since out of business called Creative Computing. And the article I wrote was called Down with Typewriters. And in it I waxed rather humorously about why I became a professional writer. Now you've got to remember I'd never written professionally when I wrote this article, but it was because I had a personal computer and someone had given me a word processing program, and I started thinking about it and playing with it. And I wrote an article and sent it off to Creative Computing. They sent me back $50. I said, hey, I am right. Now basically the article said you should, one use of a personal computer is to become a professional writer. And of course, while I was one of the pioneers in it, many other writers, in fact almost all writers today, use personal computer. So I went on to write quite a few other articles for computer magazines and science fiction stories and articles in the antique tabloids. I made a good living off of that for many years, but of course the ultimate thing that all writers want to do is publish books. So appropriately enough, my first book, which I have here, is called The Word Processor Buyer's Survival Manual. I really wrote this, most of it in 1982, but it wasn't published until 1984 by Tab Books up in Pennsylvania. I think they've long since been bought out by a New York publisher, but they were a very good publisher of how-to books at that time. So this is what my first book looks like. It was also published at the same time in hardback. So I simultaneously had hardback and paperback. Has lots of photographs in it. This is one of me back in the early 80s using a computer. And the computers and software in this book are long since obsolete. But it was a good book and I had a lot of fun writing it, and really meant a lot to me as my first book. My next three books, since the first one did reasonably well on Tab, were also done for Tab. My second book is called Analysis with Reflex. Reflex was a database management program that came out and was quite popular back in 84, 85, one of the first popular programs on the new PC computer, the IBM PC computer. And I wrote an entire book which essentially explains the instruction manual. The problem with instruction manuals then and today, it continued, is the fact that they're written by programmers who can't speak English. Now, luckily for me, I'm both a programmer and a writer, and I can speak English when I have to. So I made a very good living for about 20 years, essentially explaining instruction manuals by writing books about it. And also I wrote a lot for the antique tabloids, which I did. Went to a lot of antique auctions, so I did this one called Auction Action, a survival companion for any auction goer. Tells you how to bid, how to avoid getting ripped off, what you need to know when you go to auctions. Of course, today auctions have been pretty much superseded by the big online electronic auction sites, but there's still neat little antique auctions and other types of auctions out there that they're a lot of fun to go to. This particular book stayed in print for over 10 years. It did very well for me. In my fourth and final book for Tab, which probably made me more money than any of the other books, is The Power of Turbo Prolog, the Natural Language of Artificial Intelligence. Turbo Prolog, of course, was a program you could buy and put on your computer, and it would allow you to program in Prolog, the artificial intelligence language. And the way this book made me money, it sold reasonably well, and it was translated into several languages. I've got Portuguese and Spanish, I think, copies of this. There was a company out in Texas, in El Paso of all places, that had been bought by Daimler-Benz. They were making artificially intelligent machine controls, which were used in the auto industry. The Germans, being Germans, were very thorough in their research when they decided they wanted somebody to write a book about their artificially intelligent machine controls. So they bought all the books on artificial intelligence they could find, including mine, and decided, hey, this guy can write and he's the one that we want. So they hired me. This was in 1988. And I wound up spending 8 months in El Paso and Detroit and places like that on a total expense account writing a book about artificial intelligent machine controls used in the auto industry, and made a lot of money. It was really nice. Could use another deal like that. One of the problems with being a very successful writer for just one company is that those companies change. They get new editors, they decide to go in a different way. So, good coffee. So after 4 books with Tab, they decided maybe I was asking too much money or something, but they said they could do without my services. Well, I landed on my feet with a company called Compute, which was located down in Greensboro, North Carolina, and at that time was owned by Capital Cities ABC, which owned the broadcast network of the same name. Warren Buffett was in charge of it, who's now the richest man in the world. So I happened to become a little bit richer by writing books. In fact, I wound up writing, 10 or 15 books for Compute. I did a lot for them. My first book with Compute was using Turbo Basic, which is another book explained in the manual. In this case, Turbo Basic is a program, Basic's a programming language, and this book explains how the manual works so you can understand it and actually use it. Good stuff. They no longer make that program either. But working for Compute, I had some books that were selling reasonably well, and then I finally convinced them in 1988, and I was fascinated with computer viruses, to let me write a book about computer viruses. Well, that's pretty old hat now. We know that if you have an internet connection to your computer, you're going to get infected from time to time. You have to fight these viruses. So Compute let me write the book, and it came out, and it would have been just another computer book, made me $2,000 or $3,000 or something like that in royalties, maybe a little bit more depending on how it sold, except that luck struck. And of course you create your own luck. You know, I've been writing a number of books by then, and I was in the market and considered to be an expert on computers, so I was in the right place at the right time. because I believe it was on November the 2nd, or either the 2nd or the 3rd, I'd have to look back to see, of 1988, when a young gentleman named Robert Morris Jr. Wrote what was, a lot of people thought was a virus, but it's actually a worm, slightly different type of malicious program. And he sent it out over the internet. Now in 1988, most people didn't even know there was an internet, and it basically connected the big computers of military and colleges and universities and things like that, really important connections. And Robert's worm shut down the internet, and everybody panicked. And people, again, didn't know what the internet was, but they knew it was very important. So I was one of the experts of the moment, because my book, again, as luck would have it, had been reviewed in the New York Times the day before this. So NBC chartered a Learjet. I was still living here in Alexander, where I still live. NBC chartered a Learjet in Atlanta and flew a camera crew up here, and I was on NBC Evening News that evening with Tom Brokaw explaining the significance of the internet being shut down and so forth. And naturally that resulted in the book selling a whole bunch, and I know for my first royalty check I went and bought a new Volvo, because I've been driving a radio car for years, and got a laser printer. Now, laser printers were very expensive back then, so that can tell you we sold a lot of books and made quite a bit of money. So that was good. And later I'll do other segments on the other books I've done, but that shows you some of the first books I did and how successful they were. So yes, I am an author, and I've written novels and other types of books also, and we'll discuss those again in upcoming segments. So thank you very much. Okay, let's take a look at clouds, beautiful clouds. These are clouds over my house, or looking out over my neighbor's houses from my house, I should say, in mid-March. On a windy day. You can tell the trees moving in the foreground. I'm shooting this as time-lapse photography. I'm shooting 2 seconds of video every 30 seconds, which really condenses time and gives you an idea of how the clouds move across the sky. But even in the times when we're shooting video, you can see them moving slightly. And of course, skipping the 30 seconds, then shooting another 2 seconds, you see how they change position. So this is pretty neat. A little jerky. If you shoot like half a second every 2 seconds, it looks a lot smoother. And I'll have to do that for you. In fact, I've done it before. But it's interesting seeing the patterns. I can tell you from looking at this and knowing what directions of the compass these houses oriented, that the wind's coming from almost due south, which is very unusual here. We usually get our weather from the west or southwest, and so that's actually coming more from the southeast now that I look at it. Anyway, definitely no precipitation from these babies. They're just high and fleecy and carefree clouds. No rain from them. But we've gotten at least one good rainstorm since then, and looking out the window, as I edit this, rain is predicted for today, which is a Friday, and tomorrow, Saturday. So we'll definitely get some more as these clouds go on looking for somewhere else to rain, not here. Hi, this is Video Ralph, and this is episode number 50 of Ralph Stuff. That means I've done 50 of these half-hour episodes, a total of 25 hours. And we've decided to call this the last Ralph Stuff. Now, there's very good reasons for that. I have 2 other shows currently running here on Channel 20 on URTV. And both those shows have themes. Tex Raff's Westerns show those glorious old B-Western movies. And Rapid Raff Runs the Roads has a theme also, and that's I go out to places that you don't know exist and that you might not go yourself, but you'd like to watch on television, and we bring those to you all over Western North Carolina and various other places as well. Raff's Stuff is different from those two programs in that it's just a hodgepodge, to be honest, of things I'm doing to experiment, to learn the various video techniques that I use in other programs, that some of which I actually get paid money for. So it's time to end this one and let it go and go ahead and start a new show, which we'll be doing shortly. So I thought I'd make a special talk here just to sort of mark the occasion. We've really enjoyed doing Raff Stuff. We've brought you a lot of interesting things. And you can still watch them all 50 episodes on video.google.com. Just search for Raff Stuff and you'll find them. And you can watch them, any or all of them, at any time you please. In fact, you could watch Raff Stuff all day long and still have another hour to go. And so, anyway, it's time to move on. Now, I thought it'd be a real neat idea, concept, experiment, which is what this show's for, to film it outside. And if you watch my video tips on urtvforums.org, you know I tell you how to film outside by having the sun at a 45-degree angle to you and some sort of reflection device or another light at the other 45 degrees this way, the other way, opposite the sun, to fill in the shadows. Well, that's a real great concept, except when it's a little cloudy like this and the sun goes behind the clouds. So I don't know exactly what sort of light I'm getting. I've got a huge piece of white cardboard on that side to fill in the shadows, and the sun's that way. Except right now it's obscured by clouds, so I don't know how it's working. I hope it's working okay. We have a regular handheld microphone here that's hooked by a cord. This is the cord to the camera, because as I often preach on both on Raff Stuff and in the video tips, that televised video tips are available on urtvforums.org, that you need a good microphone, good sound, and that sound is 70% of your video, which is true. If you can't hear what the guy's saying, it doesn't matter how pretty he is. And I know I am pretty because I'm on TV and I have to be, right? Well, we won't argue that point. But anyway, so I have a good microphone. It's worth taking the time, set up microphone, to set up lighting, even though sometimes nature interferes with you on that, as the clouds are doing. And that way you get good video and people can see you and understand what you're saying, and it's worth doing. Now, nice thing about doing video is it's very simple these days. You can get a good camera and good microphones for very little money anymore. This particular microphone costs, I think, about $49. It's a professional microphone. And while I have better microphones for carrying around outside and using as a handheld interview microphone, this one's perfectly adequate and does a good job, gives good sound. So that's what we need. And the sun, it is coming out again. So we'll see how this looks. No, yeah, it's coming, but it's taking its time about it. Ooh, that's peeking from behind the cloud. It's a little bright. Don't look into the sun, please. So anyway, we got good sound, we got good equipment. The only other thing we need is good content. One of the reasons I started Ralph Stuff was to get more proficient while being on camera, such as ad-libbing. I didn't write a script for this. I'm not reading anything. I just decided to stand out here and talk for a while. And that's on purpose. I can write really good scripts, and I do from time to time. But when I first started Ralph Stuff and first started in video production in front of the camera, I've done it behind the camera for many years, I found that if I could talk for maybe a minute at a time, that was pretty good. It was hard to continue talking, to make sense, to stay on subject, to be entertaining, and all the other things you need to do if you're on camera. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't think of what to say. I couldn't. I'd lose my chain of thought. My tongue would get all tangled up, and I just couldn't say what I wanted to say. And almost everyone has that problem when they first started. But now, after a couple of years of producing on camera with Ralph Stuff and the many other shows I do, you can't shut me up. And unfortunately, that wasn't on camera. There were two birds just flew between me and the camera, but they were a little low, so I doubt they were picked up. But they have no respect at all for filming in progress. Yep, the sun's definitely coming out. I see it reflected off the microphone, and in the reflection I'm seeing in the lens. And I'm trying to look straight into the lens. That's always a little bit better, makes you seem more secure, sincere. And it's a good rule to remember if you're talking to an audience. Look at them occasionally. You can also look around other stuff too. Yep, nice day, etc., etc., whatever. So, we have the technology, to get back on subject, the technology of video is mighty easy. Very easy, really. There are very few basics to learn in shooting video. Light and sound. If you know those and understand how the camera actually sees an image as opposed to how your eye sees it, and don't confuse the two, then you can turn out very good, artistic, professional-looking videos all day long without any trouble. What do you do with the videos once you turn them out? Well, that's where URTV comes in, and other public access stations. There's many hundreds of them all across the United States and indeed across the world itself. My station, the one I am on most here, is here in Asheville, North Carolina, near where I live, in the Blue Ridge Mountains of western North Carolina, which is nicknamed the Land of the Sky for obvious reasons. If you ever visit here, you understand that immediately. And public access TV, unlike commercial TV, will let anyone put on shows. So you can gain a lot of very important and very worthwhile experience by producing and putting shows on your local public access channel. Now, public access channels will show pretty much anything that you bring in. However, that doesn't really excuse you from not knowing the technology of filming and doing it professionally. You may not be a professional yet, but often, and I found this out, and I've been writing professionally for over 30 years, a lot of the time it's more important to appear professional than to actually be professional. In other words, if you're turning out a professional product, like I hope I am here, with good audio, good video, interesting visuals, such as the apple tree, which is behind me, and all the rest, then people will assume you are professional and eventually maybe even pay you money for it. This has happened to me. I started doing that in writing. I eventually wound up making a pretty good living doing it, and now we've started a video production company and we're starting to make money with that. However, I continue doing public access TV because I feel like I should give things back. Now, no one may be listening to me on how easy it is But if I say it enough and other people say it, maybe eventually you'll come to see it. There's nothing stopping you, and I mean you, right out there in the audience now, from having your own weekly TV show. Just simply go to if you're in the Asheville area, go to urtv.org and find out how easy it is to join, and join up, take some of the classes so you know the basics, and bingo, you're a TV producer. Isn't that wonderful? And it really is. I get an intense sense of satisfaction now doing the shows I do and seeing them broadcast on TV, although actually we're on cable, so it's cable cast. But many of us tend to use the old TV terminology rather than your electronic media terminology, which is still evolving. And you're not limited, by the way, to showing your show just on the cable channel, which is limited in scope because it's only on in Buncombe counties and I believe parts of Madison and maybe one or two other counties spottily. But and then only to people who have cable. So that's sort of a limited audience, but there is this little thing called the internet, and it's very easy to stream your video or to put it on one of the video services like free services like YouTube or Google Video. I like Google Video better because they'll let you show a longer clip. YouTube's limited to 10 minutes, but which is sort of hard to show a 30-minute show. You got to break it up in 3 segments. But Google Video will let you show a full 30-minute or a full hour show, or even an hour-and-a-half movie if you want to upload it. So, produced for local TV, it gives you the incentive to do it. It gives you feedback. It teaches you techniques, and then put it on one of the internet streaming channels, and everybody can watch it worldwide. So that again is very, very easy to do and very worthwhile to do. So why don't you join us? Again, urtv.org, wonderful place. You'll learn a lot, you'll enjoy it, you'll have a good time, you meet nice people. And that's true of any of the local public access channels. But I'm predisposed, of course, towards URTV since it's my local channel, and that's one I produce shows for. So anyway, I've enjoyed doing Ralph's stuff. Again, this is episode number 50, the big 50. 50 half-hour shows, 25 solid hours of great video brought to you through the courtesy of URTV and now on Google Video worldwide. So keep on keeping on. Check out URTV forums and find out more about producing video. And there's a lot of information there, all free, and you can use it to your own benefit. So, thanks a lot, and watch my other shows. Rapid Ralph Runs the Roads is by far my most popular show. It's on every Monday at 7 p.m. on URTV, Channel 20 in Asheville, North Carolina, the land of the sky. And watch Tex Ralph Westerns. It's on 8 p.m. every Saturday on URTV, again, Channel 20. So, thanks very much. I've enjoyed doing this. This is Video Ralph, coming to you from Alexander, North Carolina. All the best. Go to ralphwroberts.com to see this show again.